Hi everybody. I wanted to share a technique with you guys for dealing with emotions that come up. This can be big emotions, small emotions. I do not recommend doing this on a severe trauma on your own. I would definitely suggest that you do that with somebody who is trained and is able to, kind of support you through that and hold space for you to do that kind of work. This is more for if somebody said something on Facebook that made you angry, or your kids are driving you nuts or something like that, and you just want to be able to kind of work through your emotions and kind of put them in a different part of your brain so that you're not reacting emotionally so much to the trigger or the stimulus that's coming up at the time. So a little background on this. There is a therapy that was developed in the 70s called EMDR, which stands for Eye Movement Desensitization and Reprocessing. So basically, the premise was that if you thought about something that was bothering you, or you thought about a trauma, and you moved your eyes in a certain way. So usually this is done with a light or a mask that a therapist puts on you, and so your eyes are kind of doing a certain pattern while you're thinking about your trauma or your issue. And the basic premise to that was that it was kind of giving you the same dynamic that you have like when you're processing things in your sleep, and you're able to kind of deal with things sometimes and process emotions in your sleep. This was a way to kind of recreate that, and the hope is that basically it puts it in a different part of your brain. So we hold a lot of our traumas and our fight or flight response in the amygdala, so at the base of the brain, and this process basically puts it in a different part of your brain. Now, what was eventually realized was that you didn't even need to actually do the eye movement thing in order to get that dynamic. I actually went, before I started really doing the heavy-duty subconscious clearing work that I do with people now, I went to a therapist who did EMDR, and I was expecting some kind of eye movement thing, and she actually did something entirely different. She pulled her chair up close to me, and she started doing this to my knees, just alternately tapping on the top of my knees in a very deliberate way. Gently, but very deliberate, where I felt her tapping on my knees back and forth. So it turns out that basically what's happening anytime you're doing EMDR, whether it's the eye movement thing or whether it's tapping bilaterally on the body, you're creating stimulation of both sides of the brain. And this is called bilateral stimulation, which means bi is two, lateral is sides, and stimulation is activating that. So when you are activating both sides of your body, so you're doing bilateral stimulation on your body, you're also doing bilateral stimulation of both sides of your brain. And that allows you to process issues and emotions and triggers and put them in a different part of your brain, so that you're not creating the same emotional response to it, or the fight or flight response that you usually get when you're triggered by something. So there's a lot of different ways that you can create this bilateral stimulation for yourself. Now, I want to repeat that I don't suggest doing this on major traumas, that you want somebody else to walk you through that if you're doing this on a major trauma. But if it's just everyday stuff that's bugging you, absolutely use this to take it down. So EFT uses bilateral stimulation, where if you're tapping with your right hand on your left hand, that's bilateral stimulation. Same thing, you switch hands. Or if you wanted to do EFT, like you're saying a mantra and you're tapping that mantra in, you can cross across your body to kind of get that same dynamic. The other thing you can do, this is called Soul Link, and this creates the same dynamic. You can kind of slowly go over like this, and it's almost like you're washing your hands of the problem. So you would do a few rounds where you're doing that, your right hand over your left, and then you would switch hands and do your left hand over your right hand, and just kind of deliberately doing this while you're thinking about the problem, while you're having your fit about it. And you can also just tap alternately on your knees while you think about the problem. So you just kind of have your fit about whatever's bothering you, and think all your bad thoughts and all your bad feelings about it while you're tapping deliberately. Now, you can also, I'm sure you've seen that when you're thinking about a problem while you're taking a walk, or while you're thinking about a problem while you're running or exercising, that it often does help you kind of get over it and feel better. Now, part of that is the endorphins and all the good chemicals that are happening in your body when you're doing physical exercise, but part of that is also the bilateral stimulation of your body. So that can also be helpful. If you've got a problem, go for a walk, go for a run. It kind of hits it from two directions. But I do find that it's slightly more effective if you are deliberately doing the bilateral stimulation of the body. So I would suggest more than anything else to actually sit down and either think about your problem and have your fit about it while you tap alternately on either side of your body, or tapping on your leg back and forth, doing that. And that will help your brain reprocess it and put it in a different place. The work I do with people is a little more intensive than that. It includes not only the bilateral stimulation of the brain, but distraction hypnosis and neurolinguistic programming, which is just kind of a way of speaking to the subconscious mind with specific word patterns. And also pattern interrupt, so you're interrupting the pattern of negative thoughts and kind of keeping them from becoming this loop in your head. So, I do a little bit more deep work than that. But if you're just looking for something to kind of rescue you in the moment, to be able to kind of deal with whatever's coming up at the time, just do a little bit of bilateral stimulation of your body. And do it, for maybe 5 minutes straight. Just kind of really have your tantrum about whatever's bothering you and think all those bad thoughts and freak out about it. And then just stop, take a breath, and then come back to, check in with yourself about how upset are you about that thing now. And maybe you'll need to do it for a few more minutes, or maybe you'll be good to go and you'll feel a lot better. So that's it for today. That's just a simple way that you can deal with, some negative emotions that are coming up. Talk to you soon. Bye.